You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money.
Welcome back, my sassy friend, to another episode of Cash and Sass. My name is Lisa Marie. I am the brains behind this podcast and Transcendent Wealth Company. And with me today, I have Christian Brim. He is a CPA and he brings a wealth of experience and a deeply personal mission to his work in helping business owners with their finances. With over 25 years of experience, his background in both personal and professional finance, as well as his own family's experience with bankruptcy, gives him a unique perspective and empathy for his clients. Christian Brim's commitment to removing financial doubt and increasing clarity around numbers not only benefits the business he works with, but also extends to their families, reflecting his holistic approach to financial well-being. And I absolutely love that. Welcome, because I am all about the holistic approach, because I think when you do that, then that means you're wealthy in all areas. And I would love to, y'all, you know what we're going to do. We're just going to dive in. We have candid conversations about anything and everything money. That's what this is about. You have experience with bankruptcy. I have experience with bankruptcy. I have experience with foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy years and years and years ago. So, but you've got that similar experience. Tell us a little bit about your journey, because now, not only are you a CPA, but you are also successful. You also are helping people become wealthy and abundant in their own right. So that means you've had a journey from that bankruptcy. Something changed. So can you tell us where you were before to where you are now?
Oh, sure. Part of it is all of this gray hair, time equals experience, whether you learn from it or not. To clarify, the bankruptcy was my family's bankruptcy. I was still a teenager at the time, but the impact that it had on me was not the loss of material things, but we were in a family business, and everything was centered around that, and we spent virtually all of our waking hours together. And I was very close with my cousins and my grandparents, and the bankruptcy caused everybody to scatter because they had to find jobs, and that was the most devastating part of it, was the collapse of the family. It wasn't the loss of the material things, although that was nice, but and although I haven't declared personal bankruptcy, there were times that I probably should have. But the motivation from my family's experience was that I didn't know how at the time, but I knew that it didn't have to be that way. And so as I learned skills and gained experience, I have used those to help others not fall into the same traps, um, and have their families suffer the stress and anxiety that causes.
How did that affect you as far as you feeling like you deserved wealth and abundance or not deserving wealth and abundance?
I talk a lot about this in the book and on my podcast about money mindset and belief systems that we have around money that we've picked up. And mine was very strange. I was never in a mindset of scarcity, which a lot of people are raised in.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in a mindset of like it was always abundant. But the crazy part about that was that essentially my belief was you can always make more money, and so what it caused in me was a lack of attention to the profitability of the business. Like, it was all about growth. It was always about getting bigger and not making as much money as I should have. Those two things are not mutually exclusive,
Right.
but I had convinced in my mind that I was just reinvesting in the business, right? And that was just an excuse for not taking care of my money.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think I'm unusual in that my belief system was an abundance mindset, but there are problems with that as well. Like, having a scarcity mindset poses its own challenges, but it's any real belief around money. You have to be careful because there are pros and cons to both.
Very, very true. Well, let's dive into that and your book, because as all my listeners know, I am a huge, huge, huge advocate, and I talk about profit first. I talk about having buckets. People laugh at me when they ask me how many accounts I have. And, I'm like, personal or business? Which one? Because that's where that sassy twist comes from, because I took profit first and I was like, how can this also work in my personal? And
Yes.
that's where the sassy twist comes from, because I did it. And I have multiple savings accounts. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, I don't have just an emergency savings, because to me, that tells my brain, oh, prepare for an emergency. And two, it tells my brain, well, if I determine that's an emergency, then that means I can touch that money. So instead, I have accounts specific for, like, set up specifically for specific things. And it works. There's money. So if for example, I had to go buy a new washing machine and dryer because my first Bentleys decided to die on me. Granted, they were 15 years old. So now I have new ones. I didn't have to worry about where that money was coming from. There was a savings account. There's money in there. And having those things is just I wish I'd have known the concept, I guess, years and years ago. I mean, it's the same concept of the envelope system before we had debit cards. But I talk about it, and I tell people I do it with a sassy twist. You have profit first for creatives, which I think is truly, truly amazing, because I work with creatives, and I've seen, and a lot of them, they have this same mentality. All I got to do is just go make more money. Okay. And let's build some wealth so that you don't have to always have that mentality of all I have to do is go make more money. Can you talk about a little bit about, one, that mentality, and two, how can you still have that creative mentality and start building wealth?
Well, yeah. I think that the reason why I wrote Profit First for Creatives was to address a need I saw in creative industries, whether that's videography or marketing agencies or whatever. But people that have creative brains that are non-linear, that are non-analytic, but and not to say that they don't have the capacity for it, but that's just not the way they're naturally wired.
Right.
They struggle with money, I think, differently than other entrepreneurs, because there are there's that disconnect. Like, how can you take numbers and make it understandable or palatable to a creative mind that's not necessarily wired that way. But two, it's challenging this belief system that a lot of creatives have, that you can either work hard at stuff you don't like to pay the bills, or you can do what you love and follow your passion and starve. And that's a false paradigm. That's not reality. You absolutely can apply your creativity to make profit. And I say in the book, like, I think all entrepreneurs are creative.
Mm-hmm.
But the creativity is what creates profit. Like if you don't come up with something new, and new ways to solve problems, then it's very hard to be profitable. And to
Right.
be sustainably profitable over time requires you to be continually creative. So it's really more about repurposing that creativity into the business rather than it is to abandon your creativity.
So, explain that. What do you mean by repurposing your creativity into the business?
Well, I look at entrepreneurs as just problem solvers, right? And so if you solve a problem, you can potentially get paid for it, right? So a creative mind, which I think a lot of times is characterized by divergent thinking and instead of convergent thinking. You can call that out of the box thinking. You can, whatever you want to call it, but um, that's uh, that's a key skill that a lot of creatives have, that is needed to solve those problems, because most businesses go about their day just repeating what they've done, and don't apply any creativity to making things better, either for their company or their customers. And I can think of tons of different examples of that in our business or clients' businesses, but that's the real superpower that creatives bring to the table, is this creative problem solving, looking at the situation differently than other people see it.
Can you give an example?
Well, sure. I'll take our business for instance. So we spent last year 6 months redesigning and rebranding our service offerings. And what we did was we went back to, and understand, this is our 28th year. Okay. And we're starting our third year of targeting creative industries. So we've been doing this a long time. But last year we sat down and we went back to the tapes and we listened to client interviews, and listened for the problem that they were trying to solve whenever they became clients of ours, and tried to make sure that the service offering that we were delivering was solving that problem. And the reality is, and this was very hard for my accountant analytical people to get their brains around,
I'm analytical,
but
so I understand.
right. So
Being naturally analytical is a good thing to a certain point, and then at some point, it's not.
well, so in their mind, and our and my team's mind, they were running into situations where they did all of the things right, and still the client wasn't satisfied. And they were like, I don't understand. What did we do wrong? And I said, well, I don't think you did anything wrong per se, but what our clients are looking for is a feeling. You're selling a feeling, and you can't control people's feelings, right? But you can provide an environment and a process and a service that is conducive for them to feel a certain way.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they're not buying bookkeeping and payroll and taxes or wealth management. They're not buying those things. What they're buying is a feeling around their finances. And that was hard for them to get their brains around, because it's like, well, but I do these things. Yes, you do those things. And that's part of how you help them have an environment where they can feel that way. But if you don't check in with their feelings and make sure that they are feeling like they are having financial clarity, they're having financial peace of mind, they're making progress towards those feelings, it's improving, then it doesn't matter what you do. It literally does not matter what you do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's an example of how I used and we used our creativity to redesign our service offerings to add some more educational components, add a personal finance component, add a coaching component, so that we were really hitting on all cylinders to solve their actual problem.
That makes sense. I like that. And it's true though. I mean, especially with creatives, and then also if you have, women as clients, women naturally, they're not necessarily investing in what it is you do. Again, it's those feelings. It's because, that's why I say the women I work with, they're no longer feeling like they're on the hamster wheel. Again, they feel more empowered. They feel like they have control over what's going on, and they feel like, oh, I can build wealth. It doesn't matter if I came from it or not, because I didn't come from wealth. And I was raised in the scarcity mindset. I was told if I didn't come from it, didn't marry into it, I was never going to have it. Okay, well, I never married into it. So there was a point where I had to make a decision. Okay, is this really true? Did some research, saw, no, it's not. Okay, what can I do differently? And now I've created my own wealth. I'm building generational wealth now so that going forward, the generations after me are my two girls, their children, whoever, they're going to know, what's possible as far as building wealth. And to me, wealth is more than just money. It's knowing, I tell people all the time, for me, my wealth is knowing my oldest is autistic. So knowing that she's taken care of no matter what, that's huge for me. That having things in place, knowing that if I'm not here and as she grows, she's going to be taken care of. That's huge. And it's being able to do the things that you want to do and have wealth. Again, generational wealth, investing in things so it's there and the money's growing so that we don't always have to just go make more.
No, that's a great point, because a lot of people never define success, especially financial, or the impact that the money has. And they get on another hamster wheel of more. Like it's kind of like if we ask someone their financial goals is, well, I want to have enough money. Well, what's enough? Right?
Yeah. I used to say that though. I used to be one of those ones. I want to have enough money, and they're like, okay, but what's enough? And it's funny because when I started my business, I was let go from corporate in 2016, and then I made the decision I wasn't going back. I was done. I was tired of the headaches. I was tired of it all. And I made the decision I was going for it. I was barely making ends meet anyway, so what did I have to lose? And they told me, well, what's your goal? I said, if I'm going to barely make ends meet, then I'm going to do it on my terms, and I'm going to be able to do it to where I'm home with my girls where they need me and not making someone else rich. That was there was no other goal. That was like, if I'm barely going to make ends meet, then it's going to no longer be on someone else's terms. It's going to be on mine. And to me, that was what started that holistic wealth, because wealth to me is being wealthy in all areas, not just your bank account. Are you taking care of yourself, right? Do you have your health and your fitness? Are you living aligned with your values and your goals? And my goal and my value and my desire was I needed to be here where my daughters needed me, where my oldest needed me. And from there, then it went, oh, okay, I can pay the bills. I mean, it was great. And then it was like, okay, now what does that look like to me? And so getting specific, right? And saying, what are the things that I want? What are the goals I want? And having them laid out. And then again, still making sure they're aligned. I talk about that all the time, because if you're not making sure it's aligned with what you truly believe in and what you really want, then you're going to be miserable regardless. And then to me, that you're not wealthy. You're just rich. You just have money, which, I mean, I'd rather be wealthy than rich.
A lot of people that own businesses end up with financial wealth, but they sacrifice their time wealth.
Right. And my time
Or
wealth was the fur that people ask me, so why you like having your own business? It's the freedom. It's the time.
right.
I get to choose, I mean, perfect example of, if my daughter gets sick or if she has an appointment or something happens, you and I have been trying to get record, and we both had to have it changed. I said, if life happens, I have control of my business day, and I can say, hey, look, I need to, change this day around.
Mhm.
Whereas when you're working for someone else and you're clocking in and clocking out, you don't necessarily have that,
Right.
that freedom. And I was in corporate for 25 years. So having that, now I've had the freedom for 8, I can't ever go back.
No.
I won't ever be able to go back.
You're unemployable.
I am. I didn't know I was beforehand, but I do know now that I am completely. Somebody tell me I gotta be there. So yeah, no, forget it.
No, I knew that when I got when I quit my last job before I started my business, and that was at 27. But I knew that I didn't know that I was unemployable, but I knew I didn't want to work for someone else. Um, but I want to share, uh, going back to that whole defining what success looks like. Most people, well, virtually all people operate out of a belief system that is primarily subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a good thing, because that allows us to be much more effective. If everything had to go through our cognitive brain, we'd never get anything done.
Right.
So, we have these hardwired programs below the surface that we're not consciously aware of. But I use an example of, my grandfather and my father-in-law. Both of them grew up literally dirt poor, dirt floors, just above destitute. I mean, they were fed, but that's about it. Um, my grandfather, whenever he made a lot of money, was very much about spending it. It was, no delayed gratification. He would just buy shit and then like turn around 6 months later and sell it. And it's like, why? Like, what are you doing there? And he ended up, dying without any money. My father-in-law, on the other hand, made a lot of money, and he's more of a miser, right? And like my wife asked him, said, why don't you buy that for yourself? You've got the money, you're 80 something, like why? Well, I just can't do that. And so you take the similar circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
and they went different directions with
Mm-hmm.
it, but neither really unearthed that belief that they had and dealt with it. And so they both have arrived at a situation that's not ideal. Like,
Right. Right. Very much so. I mean, you have to unearth, right, and make sure that you're digging deep into why you subconsciously are feeling the way you feel about money. I've done a lot of healing, a lot of work, and then just when I thought I'd done all I needed to do, I work on it every day. Mindset's not something you'll never stop working on. And just when I thought I didn't have to go deeper and that there was any more to heal, Lord and behold, last year ended up being, it was the 7th year in business, and Lord and behold, it was a year we were going deeper. We were going to do even more healing that I didn't realize, and it so much so that it made me realize I was actually stopping myself from becoming even truly wealthy in all areas, because I had this subconscious belief that of whether or not I should or could or deserved to say go to 7 figures. And once we really went deep with the somatic work and we looked at it, there was still that unearthing, like you're talking about, that we had to really look at and go, wait, okay, we haven't dealt with this. We haven't worked through this. And it just brought it was just another layer, right? And I tell people all the time is you have to be, one, don't be hard on yourself so much. And two, that's where you check in to make sure things are aligned. And are you looking deeper and are doing things, and are you stopping yourself? Because if you're stopping yourself subconsciously, because I tell people all the time, I'm my worst enemy. I'll block myself long before somebody blocks me. Sure. and being able to recognize when you're doing it and then go, okay, why? Like, and being honest with yourself on why, because there could be a reason. And if there's a reason why, is it because there's some unleveling belief that you haven't dealt with, that you haven't worked through to change? And if so, okay, work through that, because we all deserve to be wealthy. And how we have our relationship with money is going to also depict that. Money mindset, yes, is part of it, but how we manage it is the other part. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love having Profit First as a tool, is because, and having, Money Roadmap as a tool and having all those different things, is because those tools help you see what's going on so that you can make strategical decisions, so that you can go buy the things that you want to buy, do the things you want to do, and save and invest money into stocks and do whatever, so that you're truly building that generational wealth.
Yeah, I commented to myself, I can't believe I'm 54 and I'm still learning so much about myself. It's like, you'd think at 54 I would have learned all there was to learn about myself, but no.
Okay, well, I've said that. I'm 51, and I've said those exact same thing. I'm like, what do you mean I still have more to learn and I still have more to heal? I'm like, I'm 51. Look, I've done all the work, right. And we're still learning. And I think that's the key, is we're going to keep learning, right? We're going to, that's just part of life. And as we grow, we're going to keep growing. And as we grow, we're going to keep doing, I think it's important that we keep working on ourselves. We keep doing that personal growth, because if anyone ever says they're done and they don't have a mentor, they don't have growth, I tell people all the time, please turn around the other way and run. Because
yeah, I think, I mean, you can choose to not grow, of course, and most people make that choice. Maybe not in those words, but what I found is that your business will only grow to the extent that you grow.
mm-hmm.
And for us, it was we reached 2.5 million. No, it was about 2.8 million, and we hovered in that range for several years, and it got so frustrating for me that I left the business in the hands of my brother, who was my partner at the time, and I went off and started a software company because I was so burnt out on the business, and I'd lost my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality was that the business was capped at me. I had to grow
Mm-hmm.
in order for the company to grow.
And that's what I had to realize last year, is that I'd reached a point and I needed to grow more, right? Work on me more in order for the business to grow anymore.
Yes. And it gets interesting, because, I've said the last 5 years where we've completely changed everything in the business. I bought my partners out. There's literally only, a handful of employees that are still there. We got rid of a lot of services. We sold parts of the business. Like nothing's the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? but what even then I realized was that the things that gave me success originally are actually counterproductive for me to grow and have success further. And, you know, that's work. It's hard work. I think in a lot of ways, the last 7 or 8 years have been more difficult for me than it was starting the business, where there was no money, no predictability. And so you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like if you're not willing to move out of the predictable, what you know it has produced success, then you're limiting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have on here that you have a free offer for my listeners. Can you tell them about that? I think it was I think just different I'm looking and I don't see. Let's see.
Well, I you're gonna have to tell me because I don't remember what I said.
Bonus book resources, I think is what you said. Yep.
Well, we have additional online resources, videos, etc., that go along with the book, and we actually have an online course for Profit First for creatives that we normally only allow our clients to access. But if your listeners want access to that and they give us their email, we'll be happy to give them access to that online course.
Okay. All right. And what I'll do, everyone, is I will make sure that we have the link in the show notes so that you know where to go. I think it's really important and something that's worth giving your email address for, because I think it will help you and you'll be able to have information and more knowledge to just y'all, so that you can build wealth, so that you have control over your money. So money is not such a scary damn subject. Money doesn't have to be scary. I've learned, I was years and years, I either hated it or I was scared of what it would be like. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I just think it's really important that you realize that there are steps that you can take to be more wealthy and have a business truly growing for you, and you not having to, I don't know, work yourself into a grave. You don't have to work frenzy. You can have the time wealth and the money wealth and wealth in your fitness and your health, which, by the way, I think is truly important. That's the only way again, I think that's part of the growth with yourself, and how you become wealthier in your business is by taking care of yourself. And I think that that's just really, really important. And so please go get it. Just go get it. Just do it. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. I truly appreciate it. That is a subject that I can talk about forever. And of course, we're limited on time. So until next time, please remember that cash and confidence are the ultimate duo power, and go check in with your money, change that relationship, make it a dance partner. Until next time, bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.